Hello, this is Dr. Stevens, and for the next few days, I'm going to be doing some teachings on emotional health and emotional healing. Now, primarily I'm a Bible teacher and I teach theology. I teach it on a collegiate level. I'm a pastor also, but I want to get down and real about people's emotional health and just some things that we need to understand that sometimes uh, people that suffer from emotional and mental illness. Unfortunately, a lot of times when they go to church to get help, rather than get help, they get misunderstood, they get judged, and they get stigmatized. I've been in a mental health career for over 15 years. I've been a trauma chaplain over 20 years. Um, and I've seen a lot of people suffer from stress. I personally suffer from PTSD from the military, and we're going to talk about PTSD during these series also. But today I want to kind of introduce myself and introduce what I'm going to be going over the next few days. One of the things I find is a lot of people that suffer from mental illness, especially depression, from a spiritual standpoint, they're made to feel guilty about it, especially by fellow Christians. The thing we need to understand is that anybody can be depressed. People greater than you and I have been depressed. Moses was depressed. Paul was depressed. Even Jesus was depressed in the Garden of Gethsemane and on the cross. He said, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? So being a human can lead you to depression. But what I want to talk about today is how do we get out of depression? And what are some things we can do to help us deal with the depression we're going through? Let me just say this again. Depression is not a sin. How do I know depression is not a sin? Because Jesus was depressed, and we know that Jesus, in him, when there was no sin. So depression is a human condition. Now, sometimes when we see somebody that's depressed, without knowing their background, without knowing their history, without knowing the things they may have suffered as children, things they may have gone through in the military, on law enforcement, in a marriage, no matter what, we don't know why that person is suffering from depression or trauma or anxiety. A lot of times when people suffer from depression, sometimes they don't really understand why they're going through the depression they're going through. But I want to share a few practical things with you. Some are Proverbs, some are in the Psalms, and some are just some practical advice I learned from being in this field for so long. The first step to getting help with depression is realize that if you are depressed, don't deny it, acknowledge it. Acknowledge it and talk to somebody. One of the things that gets us in trouble is we think we're tough, especially men. Men have a tendency to try and tough it out. Oh, things will get better. I'll tough it out. We're raised like that. Men are raised like that. I remember when I was in high school and I was playing football, and a man, one of my football teammates broke his leg, and the bone was sticking out of his leg. So he was laying on the ground screaming and holding his eyes, and the coach told him to suck it up. And that's one of the reasons why men are so emotionally damaged, because people telling people stuff like that. Your bone sticking out of your leg, and somebody says, suck it up, be tough. But no, that's not the answer. Whatever your pain is, you got to address the pain, deal with the pain, treat the pain. That's how you do it physically. Same thing. Suffer from molestation at home. There's some adults that have been molested as children, and it's affecting their marriages and affecting their relationships. So don't assume that, you can just take care of this by slapping oil on somebody's forehead at the altar. I'm not dismissing prayer at the altar, but what I am saying is some things are beyond a trip to the altar. Some things take counseling. Some things take time. Some things take people to be there for you in your time of crisis. One of the things I learned being a trauma chaplain is that nobody is exempt from the effects of trauma. I've seen, hundreds of people that have lost loved ones in car accidents, gunshot victims, and sometimes the family are believers, but the first thing they ask is, why, God? Why did this happen to my son? And, a lot of times I hear people say you shouldn't ask God questions. What kind of God is that? We serve a God that wants to talk to us. We serve a God that wants to converse with us. He wants us to share our heart. Why do you think Jesus said, take my yoke upon you. It's easy. My burden is light. Cast your cares on me, for I care for you. But a lot of times, because we don't cast our care on God, we don't confess our faults to another. Confession is not a sign of weakness. Confession is a sign of strength. If you're going through a situation, you're going through trauma and situations that are unbearable, you got to talk to somebody. Because if you don't talk to somebody, guess what? Your mind is going to talk to you, and there's another being called the devil that's going to talk to you too. So if you're angry with God, talk to God about it. I know people get angry at God. We don't like to admit that, but when a mother loses her 6-month-old child, she's angry with God. When a wife loses her husband and worked 2 jobs to put food on the table for the family, she's going to be angry with God. And just like David in Psalm 13, David said, God, how long will you hide your face from me? Forever? David was angry with God, but David had a conversation with God, and God listened. The woman with the issue of blood was tormented all those years with that illness. But after she touched the hem of Jesus' garment, she was healed. But after that, it says she told Jesus everything. And then it says, Jesus said, go thy way, lady, you've been made whole. A lot of us that are saved, but we're not whole. We're dealing with past traumas. We're dealing with present traumas. You're a woman and your husband's beating on you, and you go to church every Sunday putting on makeup, covering up the bruises. You've been traumatized, and you need help. Not just help to get away from him, but help emotionally, so the damage that this person inflicted on you doesn't last. So we're going to be talking about mental health over the next few days. And this is just an introduction, just to let you know what we're going to be dealing with, what we're going to be talking about. So my email address is chaplainmarkstevens@gmail.com. If you have questions that you want to ask me about a mental illness or about emotional trauma, just drop me an email. Let me know what the question is, and we'll discuss it over the next few weeks. I'm not rushing through this thing, because there's so many people right now that are living in trauma. Vietnam vets, Desert Storm vets, Iraqi freedom vets are still dealing with PTSD. You got vets on the street homeless with PTSD. You got first responders and police officers with PTSD. You got families right now that are homeless because of COVID. They're suffering trauma. So we have to be able to help each other, help these people, and I'm not dismissing church, because I'm a pastor, but there's some things that you have to do beyond the church to get the help the people needs. And the traditional ways of dealing with people a lot of times doesn't work, because sometimes we're too judgmental. We want to get in people's business, but what we really need to do is listen to people and then keep that to ourselves. When somebody confides in you, keep it to yourself. Don't run your mouth on people. Just keep it to yourself. Pray for that person, intercede for that person, love that person, don't judge that person. And we're going to see some great things happen as a result of these teachings. So when I come back, I'm going to talk a little bit about PTSD. So next time you see this video in my face, it'll be dealing with the subject PTSD. And not only GIs get PTSD, anybody can get PTSD. It can even start in your childhood. So we're going to discuss that on our next video. God bless you, and have a great day.